Hey, it's Aaron from GameEnthus.com, and today I'm taking a look at a prototype of Arcana Rising from designer Tim Armstrong and published by Gray Fox Games. Arcana Rising is a light to medium weight engine building game. You'll be crafting spells to earn resources, to craft more spells, to earn victory points, to give up those victory points, to ultimately earn more victory points. Arcana Rising's game estimate is about 40 minutes, plays between 2 to 6 players, and it's for ages 13 and up. I guess at this point it would make sense to actually show you what the game looks like, so I'll go ahead and do that. Allow me to reiterate that this is a prototype, so a lot of the art and things you're going to see are not necessarily indicative of what the quality of the finished product will look like. So I set up for a 3-player game here, so every player would have their own player board where their spells are going to be cast. So, all spells work as you have charms, herbology, blood arts, potions, and alchemy. Making gold. Everybody has the same exact player board. Game is also going to come with victory point trackers. I'll put those back in the box. And then this is going to be the casting board, which is very important. Because this is an engine builder game, the casting board is going to indicate what type of spells you can cast and when. These tokens are going to go on to the casting board, and they represent potions, alchemy, blood arts, charms, herbology. I think that's all of them. Put all these in, take out one at a time. I may not have mentioned already, this is also a card drafting game. The game is run over 3 different rounds. So round 1, use round 1 cards. Round 2, use 2. Round 3, use 3. And in the casting board, this also corresponds to the turns within each round. So there's always 6 turns for each of the 3 rounds, 18 turns total. Cards have to be purchased in order to be used. This particular card, if you look in the upper left corner, would cost you 1 alchemy resource or 3 of any other resource. And were you to purchase it, you would tuck it right underneath your player board so its ability can still be seen, and you do the same for all the various types of spells. Not every card costs something. Some cards have no cost at all to be played. So you see there's dashes there, so these cards will cost you nothing to play. Probably worth me mentioning how some of these things add up to actual points, the different spells themselves. Most of the spells here require 3 of the resources to get 1 point at the end of the total game, end of all 3 rounds. 3 charm resources equal a point. These mean like a victory point. 3 herbology resources equal a point. Blood arts are negative points, so every resource here will be a negative point. Potions, 3 potions equal a point, and for alchemy, 1 alchemy resource equals a point. Everyone begins the game with 1 resource on every space. Everyone gets 6 cards, and the 6 cards also correspond to the turns there on the casting board. You also can discard a card. If you look to the left of the player board, it says discard pile. So if you discard a card, that means you want to run your engine. Running your engine corresponds to whatever turn you're in that round. So in the first round that you start off in will be round 6. So if you were to run your engine in round 6, the way this player board is laid out here, you could run charms and run herbology. What that means is you could run whatever the base abilities of the cards are: gain 1 charm, gain 1 herbology, gain 1 blood, gain 1 potion, and for alchemy it's move any resource here and essentially becomes gold. So you could just move any other resource from somewhere else and just put it over here. And because there's a 1-to-1 relationship between resources on alchemy and victory points, that's advantageous for you to do so. That's running your engine. If you run your engine in the 3rd turn and you have 3 cards left, let's say you discard a card there, for the 3rd turn you could run your engine for blood arts and potions. So running your engine corresponds to what turn it is in the game. So you definitely want to plan ahead to know that, hey, if I have a really good card for alchemy, I want to make sure I gear everything up to run alchemy on the penultimate turn so that I can use those cards' abilities to gain more resources, get more points, defeat my opponents, talk trash to them, make them feel horrible about themselves. in a friendly way. The first round, everybody passes their cards to the player on their left. For the second round, everybody passes the player on their right. And then for the third, wait for it, you pass to the left. And that's how the flow of the game goes. I would put that card down, pass this over. This person here, I would get their cards. Let's say they purchased that. I will take a look at these 5 cards, figure out whether or not I want to run my engine. So now that I have 5 cards, I can run blood arts or a potion. So those are your options. Blood arts means I would just get an additional. So if I did run my engine by discarding a card, I'd run I'd run blood arts and potions. So the base ability is what you do if you have no cards. So your engine is run, you just run those 2 abilities. But because I have this card here, I would run the base and then run everything underneath it in that order. So the base just meant I just get to run that. I'll make it less confusing and use the blue. So just the base card means gain 1 potion, and then I also get to run the card that's there. So I get an additional potion there. You know, the designer kept things fairly simple in terms of what you can do on your turn. The real challenge is figuring out what the best path to get points is, or to set yourself up to get the most points is, because everybody's sort of resource strapped when the game begins. Everybody has 1 resource for each different type of magic. So you're very limited in what you can do. But the cards do different things. Like, it might be worth it to you to get rid of 1 gold resource or 3 of anything to gain 2 potions because of a card you have that lets you take every 2 potions and move them over to alchemy or what have you. Cards work together. Different combos can do many different things. For example, this one is well worth it. Now, yes, it'll cost you essentially 2 victory points now because of 2 alchemy, or 6 of any other resources. That's kind of pricey. But if you have the alchemy to do it, this lets you cast every discipline except your largest, which means whichever one has the most cards. So let's say the herbology had two different resources there, and I have 1 for alchemy here, and let's say I wanted to just use this event card. It doesn't get tucked away anywhere. You just do it. Like, you pay for it and then you do it. So this lets you cast every discipline except your largest. What that means is you get to go right down the line, do all of them, and reap the benefits from it. In addition to event cards, there are also artifact cards. Artifact cards can also be pricey, but they're also very useful. Like, this artifact card says gain 2 victory points for each card under charms. So if you were to load up a lot of charm cards here, at the end of the game, you would get 2 points for each one. That might be worth it to you based on what you've seen. The challenge is based on how many players you're playing with. Playing with 6 people, the cards you see when you begin, you're not going to see those cards ever again. So you can't really plan based on what you have. With 3 people, you're going to see some of those cards again because they'll make their way back around. So the strategy really changes based on how people are playing, which makes sense. And then as you get into round 3 of cards like this one costs 4 charms or 6 of any other resources combined. And this lets you take 5 resources and convert them to 4 gold. That's pretty useful. So if you really went hard on charms, and you ran this in your engine, you're good to go. Well, for the last turn of a round, you can purchase a card if you wish, or you can by default run your whole engine. So as you go from having 6 to 5 to 4 to 3 2 to 1, you always have 2 for the most part different magic disciplines that you can run in your engine. Just 2. But as you get down to 1 card, when you have 1 left, if you discard, you are able to run everything. The catch is you can only run the most recent card. Now, if you have no card down for a certain discipline, like I have nothing down here for charms, let's say I had 1 card left, I would just get to do the base, which is gain a charm. So I would just gain 1 more resource. That's fine. Because this card, Endless Harvest, was the last one I put down for herbology, I can only run this one. I can't run all of them. I can only run the most recent. Another thing to consider. So despite the fact that there are really two things you can do on your turn for the most part, there is a lot of strategy baked into Arcana Rising. There's a lot of decisions to make in terms of what is this worth me doing? Is it worth me taking on more blood arts to gain more potions, to turn it into gold or what have you? You're always having to make decisions and work within the limitations that you have and that everyone has. Like everybody starts off pretty resource poor, and people make really good decisions and also get good cards are able to do a lot with a little. And there is some take that in that you can see what everybody else is doing. So if I see a card that lets my opponent over here turn charms into alchemy, on a turn where I know I'm going to run my engine, if it's in the second round and my cards are going to the right, or if maybe we're playing with three people and we're going to the left and I think my card might get over there anyway, I might burn that card and discard it because I'm going to run my engine anyway. It doesn't matter what card I put down to run it. I have to just discard a card. I might burn it just to make sure they don't get it. So I'm doing what I still need to do, all the while trying to keep cards that help them out of their hands. There are a couple of event cards that allow you to steal a card, but I feel like the hate drafting, for lack of a better term, is the biggest take that part of it. It's seeing what your opponent is working on and trying to reduce the chance of them getting cards to gain an advantage. That is Arcana Rising, light to medium engine building card drafting game from Tim Armstrong, designed by Tim Armstrong and published by Grey Fox Games. It's on Kickstarter right now, so if you were into those things, I think you would be. The link is in the description below.